The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of ParaX, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
It's coming.
All these voices. All these voices.
They're not yours. You had no right to them when you were alive, and you have no right to them when you're dead. That's what it sounded like. Good, so you know who I am. And then you know I'm not playing. You're going to let those women go. In Jesus' name, you're going to let those women go.
Is there a demon here watching us right now? Watching us right now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Staring into the Abyss. I am your host, horror author James Hershey Jr., and with me, as always, my co-host, old boy James Ash. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty good. How's everybody tonight?
Tonight's show is going to be interesting and depressing and awesome and blah, blah, blah. A bunch of different stuff. Basically, what I want to say tonight is the clock is ticking towards the Earth's inevitable destruction. Now, that's a dark, dark statement to make. But I'm going to talk to you tonight about some amazing things that have happened throughout our history. And hopefully, by the end of tonight, you will agree that we kind of put our priorities and our emphasis on kind of silly stuff when we should be concentrating on becoming an interplanetary species. That's the most important thing that we could ever do. Okay? Do you know that 99.9% of all of the species that have ever existed on Earth are now extinct? Now, depending on who you ask, you'll get a lot of different reasons for that. A lot of the tree hugger types will say that it's because of man, that it's our fault. We did it because of hunting and all that kind of stuff. Okay, that's not the truth. That's nonsense. The actual truth is well, let's do it this way. There's two different things, two different categories of extinction type events. Okay, there's the external and the internal. The external is like the cosmic events, like asteroid impacts, comet impacts, that kind of stuff, solar storms. That would be an example of an external event. Internal events would be things like plagues, super volcano eruptions, that kind of stuff. Okay, that's internal. In today's society, like nuclear war or something, that would wipe out the majority of the Earth. But it's not as clear cut, honestly, as all that, because there's overlapping that takes place. And this is probably a pretty controversial statement to make. Okay, in the scientific community, there'd probably be some argument on that from some people. But what I'm saying tonight is they overlap. And the reason they overlap is because no cataclysm happens in a vacuum. Okay, now you might say, we were all taught in school that the dinosaurs were killed by an asteroid, right? Asteroid falls down, boom, blows up, bye-bye dinosaurs. We were all taught in school that there was a great worldwide flood about 11,600 years ago. It was the end of the Younger Dryas period, or what you might know as the Ice Age. Okay, the end of the Ice Age. That there was a worldwide flood. But they don't really talk about what caused it. Okay, they can say, well, we know it happened because of all the layers, the sedimentary layers, feet thick, that we know there was massive flooding and the water came back, took a bunch of sediment in, went back out and left behind those mud layers, so we can measure that. We know that it took place. But they don't talk about why it took place. And they also don't talk about what else is in those layers. Okay, in some of those layers you have like volcanic ash. which means that there were eruptions that were taking place during that time. In some of those layers, you have certain elements and minerals that let us know that there was an asteroid impact that happened at the same time. You have charred stuff, which lets us know there was massive fires that happened during that time. Okay, so like take the Ice Age, right? The end of the Younger Dryas. We're taught in school that the planet warmed and the Ice Age ended, and we were able to spread out further into places that we couldn't spread out before. And it was all good. But that's not the way the Ice Age ended at all. According to the geological record, that's just not what happened. Okay, during that time period, before the world flooded, you had multiple asteroid impacts. We know that from the layers. We can measure it. Okay, so picture that you have asteroids that fall from space. They enter our atmosphere, giant flaming balls of death, crash into the earth, set everything on fire. Okay, so first of all, you have dust and debris flying up in the air, getting up into the upper atmosphere, blocking out sunlight. Then you have massive fires all over the earth from these impacts. Then those fires and the intense heat of not only the fires, but the asteroid impact itself, the energy generated, that causes the ice to melt. Okay, so when that ice melts, all of a sudden you have massive flooding. And when I say massive flooding, I'm not talking about flooding like we have today, where you got 10 or 20, even 20 feet of water. That's not at all what I'm talking about. I'm talking hundreds of feet of water. 800 million cubic feet per second, just wiping out entire areas. You're talking about a 45 foot rise in ocean levels. That's substantial. So ask yourself, what does that mean? We know the asteroid hit. We know fires broke out from that. Two separate cataclysms back to back, right? The asteroid's the first one. It causes fires to happen. Not only do you have fires, that's a second massive fires, second cataclysm. But also that impact causes earthquakes, which in turn disrupts the magma chambers and causes volcanic activity. So asteroid hits, massive fires, earthquakes, and volcanoes going off. That's four separate end of days type cataclysms, back to back to back to back to back. All the heat from all that, from the lava, from the fires, from everything, melts the glaciers, causes the glaciers to flood. So now you have massive flooding, the likes of which not only we have never seen in our lifetimes, but there's literally no way to survive. Unless it's just some fluke, lucky thing that you just happen to be on top of a mountain at the time or something like that, right? Massive flooding. But what did that do to the ancient world? See, archaeologists would have you believe that at that time period, everybody's just hunter-gatherers. We're just a bunch of Stone Age idiots walking around with spears and animal furs. You've all seen the movies and TV shows. That's the way they depict it. But that simply cannot be true. It just can't. And once again, another controversial statement to make. But here's the evidence. Here's the proof. We have massive megaliths and monoliths all over this planet. Now, for those who don't know what that means, we're talking like the pyramids. Okay? We're talking like the Aztecs. They're big, giant pyramids they built. The Egyptian pyramids. We're talking about massive structures like Stonehenge. We're talking about stuff like that in America, giant earthworks. All over the globe, you have that kind of stuff. So that requires a couple different things. To build something like that requires engineering. You've got to clear the land. You've got to figure out how to quarry the stone and then to move the stone. Because, like, let's take Stonehenge, for example. Stonehenge has like 70 of those big, tall sandstone type stones. Okay, they're anywhere from 10 to 15 tons apiece. So you got 70 of those. They were quarried 25 miles away from that site. So you not only have to cut 70, 10 to 15 ton stones in just the right shapes, but then you have to somehow transport those all the way to the Stonehenge site through rivers, lakes, and heavy, heavy forest. That's what it was then. So now the inner stones, the blue stone, they come from further away. And there's a lot more of those. And they weigh anywhere from 5 to 10 tons apiece as well. So they're like 75 to 100 miles away where they got those from. So they have to go and get them, cut them, and transport them all of that distance back. Then the altar stone, the one in the middle, right? That the sun on the summer solstice, the longest solar day of the year, the sun shines directly on that through Stonehenge. That stone came from close to 400 miles away. And not only did it come from that far away, but it was a very special stone. It was very high in certain metals that they deemed were important. Okay, I know they deemed it was important because why else would you cut a giant stone like that? Once again, 5 to 10 tons at least, and transport it over 400 miles to sit it in that exact spot so the sun can shine directly on it during the summer solstice. Why would you do that? Okay, so it requires not only engineering, it requires technology. Because you got to have some kind of technology to move those stones. You're not using the old put the log underneath of it and roll it for 450 miles. That's not happening. So you got to have the technology to be able to transport those things as well. You have to have massive astronomical knowledge. We're talking very high science and mathematics in order to lay that thing out perfectly so that it represents the moonrise and the moon set in like a 16 and a half year cycle in different points along that circle. And so that during the summer solstice, the sun will shine directly, exactly right to shine on the altar stone. So that requires a high level of not only engineering, but scientific knowledge. Knowledge of the cosmos, knowledge of the cycles of the moon in that large of an arc, of a 16 and a half year arc. It requires a lot of knowledge. So it's obvious they weren't just dumb hunter-gatherers, walk around with spear points hunting mammoths. Now, you might have had some of that, but I think that came later. I think that was after. Because remember what I was talking about in the beginning. Asteroid, volcanoes, earthquake, fires, floods, right? Massive, massive catastrophes. Extinction level event. What happens when all of those glaciers melt? It rises the sea, right? Raises sea level. Like I said, about 45 feet is what they estimate that it raised. So if you raise the sea that high, that's going to have a dramatic effect out into the coast. So what used to be the coast is no longer the coast. Now it's the ocean. Okay? So if you think about Ice Age times, when a lot of the land is covered in glaciers, like 8 million cubic miles of glacier, I believe it is, there's not a whole lot of room for you to have civilizations. And the best places to do it where you're going to have food and you're going to have enough warm air will be the coastlines. Because the Gulf Stream is going to be pulling warmer air up to you. So most of the civilization during that time was most likely found on the coast, much like it is today. In today's society and civilization, we build cities where there's water. Coastal cities and cities around rivers and lakes and stuff. Because without water, you can't survive. So it was probably exactly the same then. So when that sea level rose, it buried under the ocean their civilizations, their cities. So you had massive death, you had massive flooding. There wasn't time, hey everybody, let's escape. Let's all go and hide out over here or something. Wasn't time for that, man. You're talking boom of the asteroid. All of a sudden you got earthquakes going off, volcanoes erupting, everything's on fire. And then not too long after that, massive flooding. And this took place a couple times during that time period. It wasn't just a one and done. You had multiple impacts which caused the same kind of scenario over and over again. Within the span of, I think it was like around 1,000 years, the majority of that glacier had melted away. So geologically, that's not a lot of time. So you're going to have massive die-offs. So then what happens to the people that survive? Well, it's not like they can go looking to see where their buddies are. You can't go search out for other survivors and reform civilization right away. You're stuck in little bitty groups in a little bitty area because everything around you was flooded. Remember that. And not just like a flood like we get now, a bad flood. We're talking hundreds of miles high flood. We're talking mud that's deeper than you that has to dry out so that you can walk around on it, so that nature can kind of take back over and stuff can start to grow again. You ain't got plant life really going on that much anymore because everything burnt. Not a whole lot of animals to eat because everything kind of flooded. So people did what they had to do to survive. Most of them died. We got very, very close to extinction at that point in time. We barely survived it. And eventually over time, nature does what nature does. You know, it starts to come back. Animals start to repopulate. Plants start to regrow. Living starts to get a little bit easier. But in the beginning, not so. In the beginning, very, very hard. Now you might say, well, damn, man, that sounds horrible. But, I mean, it already happened and we survived it. What's the chances that that's going to happen again? We're probably okay. Well, I can tell you that from what we know, okay, now this isn't the totality of it. Because a lot of the times it happened, we probably weren't around. We don't know, right? There's no evidence of it. But for what we know, 16 times in our history, this has happened. The most recent was the end of the Younger Dryas, the end of the Ice Age. But 16 or 15 other times than that, we've had impacts which led to damn near extinction. And I think if you look at the megaliths and the monoliths that are scattered around the planet, that to this day we still don't know how they did some of them. If you look at that, that tells you we're not dealing with hunter-gatherers. We're dealing with advanced civilizations who had a knowledge of the stars. Hell, they might even went out in space for all we know. They had advanced technology to do things that we still can't figure out today. 16 times in total that we know of. This has happened and almost wiped us out. It's only by the grace of God that we survived. Now, my point in this is we need to figure out how to set up bases, colonies, off the Earth. Okay, first you're going to be talking like a space station kind of deal. You're going to be talking lunar colonies at first. But eventually we need to spread to Mars. And then any other habitable planets we can find. Now, the reason we want to do that is because if we do get another civilization-ending asteroid that wipes out the majority of humanity, or maybe all of humanity this time, there'll still be people alive in other places to carry on the human race. It's super, super important. Unless we want this all to die with us. Now, the funny thing is, people don't realize how close we've come several times in my lifetime to having that exact scenario take place again. In 2023, there was a couple asteroids that whizzed past us, real close, that they thought might hit us. They're talking now in 2038, they think there's one that probably will. If it doesn't, it's going to barely miss us. We're not going to know for sure until we can see it again, because it's passing to a point where we're not going to be able to see it for a while. But then once it pops back up to where we can see it, then we can kind of figure out a little bit more precisely what the trajectory is going to be and whether it's actually going to hit us or not. There's several times they've seen something, they said, oh my God, that's going to hit us. And then it disappears. And then once we can see it again, we say, oh wait, no, the trajectory it's not going to hit us. It's going to miss us by like a mile, not a mile like literal mile, because that would be damn close. But I mean like a mile as far as like miss us by a bunch. So we don't know for sure until we can see it again. And unfortunately, once we can see it again, we don't have a whole lot of lead time to figure out how the hell to do anything about it. That's the issue. So we've got to figure out how to get along with each other and stop arguing about stupid shit that don't matter. Stop worrying about the dumb stuff that means nothing. We've got to work on several things. One, we've got to start building space stations. We got to start progress towards a lunar colony. That's the first steps. From there, we can go to Mars and set up colonies there. Okay, that's all that's going to happen in my lifetime, if we're lucky. After that, that's for the youngins to figure out. But we need to get that done. Hopefully, within the next 10, 15 years. Get cracking on it. We have the technology to do it. We can do it. The problem is we can't get along long enough to do it. We should have already had a lunar colony. And we would have if it wasn't for politics and war. That's what screwed everything up. I mean, the Apollo missions got canceled out basically because we went to Vietnam and spent all that money over there, and we didn't have the money to keep going. We had to pay all that crap off. That was back when they actually gave a damn about the debt. Now it's like 35, 36 trillion, and it seems like our governments, the last several presidents haven't given a damn about the debt. They're just like, oh well. But back then they actually gave a damn. And they said, we can't afford this anymore. So we should have already had a lunar colony, and we got to get it set up. We got to get going on it. But also, we got to figure out ways to safeguard here, to be ready for something like that to happen. Now, after the flood water receded, after the mud dried up, the people of that time were very wary and very aware that death could come from space and destroy the planet in the form of asteroids and comets. So what they did was they started digging underground. And they created some amazing underground cities, some of which you can go and walk through today if you wanted to. And like the biggest one that we know of could house like 20,000 people. That's pretty cool. And it's not just one big hole where everybody can get down in it. I mean, this was like a network of tunnels and different openings, like caverns. And it was like a honeycomb type grid like thing where people could go down and have all these different areas. It was really awesome. And they dug that out of solid rock. And I guess what they were figuring is if this shit happens again, if we look up and see another one of them things coming, everybody run down underground into the underground city we built. And we can kind of live down there. And I think probably people have lived down there. There's evidence of it in the past. So that's one thing that we can do. We can start creating these things. We already have some for the rich people. But I mean, we can start making that a priority and get enough for a lot of people to get down there. It's not that difficult to do. We have the technology. We know how to do it. You can make it some government project where it's like let's help the economy. Let's put people to work like they did back in the Dust Bowl. In the Dust Bowl, they hired a bunch of people to plant trees all over the country. Because part of the reason for the Dust Bowl is people went in and they dug up the land to farm and the price of corn and all that went down. And they said, well, to hell with it. We're not going to make any money. So they just left the fields. Now, this wasn't the farmers that lived there. This is people from back east that came out and bought land just to farm on, just to make the money when the prices were real high. But when the price tanked, they said to hell with it and just cut their losses. Well, the problem is once you done plowed up that land, there's no cover crop. The winds come and blow all that topsoil away. So they had soil from California that was literally blowing around in New York and Washington, D.C. That's how bad it got. And so the government hired a bunch of people to plant trees. They planted millions of trees in order to reestablish the topsoil and reestablish the ground and hold it all in place to end the Dust Bowl. We can do kind of the same thing here. We already have seed banks and stuff like that, but we can start building underground structures that can house a lot of people in the case of an emergency like this. And it wouldn't just have to be let's do this just in case an asteroid comes, because it may never come in your lifetime. But also things that do happen all the time. Tornadoes, hurricanes, those kind of things. If you have something massive that's going to hit like that, if everybody goes down into the shelter that they build underground, seal that sucker off, you're good to go. You can survive a tornado or something like that. It's not going to kill you. So it would be useful for every town to have this. And it's something that is within our capability to do. So that's one thing that we could do to try to safeguard the people here at home. Because the ugly truth is, if a planet-killing asteroid hits, most of you are dead. That's just the bottom line. I mean, even if we can build a colony on the moon, and even if we can have space stations, and even if we can build a colony on Mars, there's no way we're going to be able to evacuate the whole Earth. It's just not going to happen. Especially because most likely we're not going to have enough lead time to even know for sure that it's going to hit. By the time we can see it again, we might have a couple months. And you're not going to evacuate billions of people in a couple months, especially to fly them to the moon or something like that. It's just not going to happen. So having those underground cities built to where people can go down there, they'll have a better chance of surviving. Now, you're going to want to make sure they're sealed off watertight. But that's not beyond our capability. We used to do that in the 50s when we'd build the shelters for like the bomb shelters and stuff in case of nuclear war. So it's all doable. But that's going to be the only chance that most people have of surviving something like this. So while we're working on space stations, while we're working on lunar colonies and Mars colonies, we should also be doing that. Okay. Also, we need to work on ways to prevent these damn things from hitting us in the first place. Now, the popular thing that everybody talks about comes from the movies. And they say, well, what you got to do is you got to fly a spaceship up to the asteroid and nuke it. You hit it with a nuclear bomb, blow it up. That is a dumb idea. Very dumb. So let's say that you are somehow fortunate enough to land on the asteroid. We've done it. It has been done. So we know it's possible. And then you bring with you drilling equipment and everything, because you don't want to just hit the top of it with a nuke. That's not going to blow it up. You need to drill down into it and activate that nuclear bomb near the center of its mass in order to get the best effect. So let's say you do that. Let's say you're lucky enough to land on it. You drill down, you insert the nuclear bomb, you detonate it. Well, all you've done is turn one problem into a lot of problems. Because that thing is still headed right for you. You haven't vaporized that rock. What you've done is made this into this, or this. Which, if those pieces aren't small enough, is worse. Because instead of having one big impact that's going to kill a lot of people, but there might be places on Earth that are okay, you now have dozens of smaller impacts, which not only kill a lot of people, but the cumulative effect of the earthquakes and the fires and all that ends up blocking the sun because of the dust and the dirt thrown up from the impact and the smoke and stuff from the fires. Then you end up with what they call a nuclear winter, and everything dies. So it's a worse idea. But what you want to do is, if you have enough lead time on it, you can go there, and you don't even have to land on it, but you can fire a little booster rocket at it, something that can attach to it, that has a booster rocket on the end, and over time, just give it a little booster rocket, just a little, give it a little nudge, a little push. Now, you might only push it a few feet, but over a long enough distance, if you have a long enough lead time, that changes the trajectory completely, and what could have been a direct hit now sails right by, no problem. That's the way that we're going to have to do to deal with these things. That's how it's going to have to be done. And it's doable, and we know how to do it, but it relies on us having enough lead time. Now, what I mean by lead time, that is amount of time before the asteroid hits us. So we want to spot it and calculate its trajectory far enough away to where we can, with a relatively high level of certainty, we can say, yeah, that thing's coming right at us. That's going to hit us. If you have that, then you can do something about it. If you're not sure and you don't do anything, and then it pops back up and you've only got a couple months, you're screwed. You can't divert it at that point. It's too close. You definitely can't blow it up. You're just going to make it worse. So at that point, it's one of those, well, let's hope we have the shelters built, because there's a lot of things going to die. So we need to be constructing the shelters. We need to be stockpiling food, dehydrated food, stuff like that. We need to work as a group, all of us. We need to stop arguing over dumb crap. We need to stop going to war with each other and doing all the stupid shit that humanity does, and focus as a group on solving this problem. Because this is not an unsolvable problem. And quite frankly, we're the only ones that can do it. Out of all of the species that I talked about earlier that has ever inhabited this planet, we are the only one who has the capability to do something about it. We're the only one that can actually save the planet from this. If we can just get out of our own damn ways. We can stop focusing on stupid shit like pronouns and whose flag is better, all that dumb shit. Pull our heads out of our collective asses and say, hey guys, we better get this shit ready because it's coming. It's not a difficult concept. It's happened 16 other times. So we know that it happens with regularity. The cycle is about every 10,000 years. Something happens that's pretty bad and wipes out a ton of people. So we're kind of overdue at this point. It could happen at any time. And that is only the cosmic events. That's only asteroids and comets and stuff. We're not even talking yet about stuff that happens right here on Earth that could wipe out a ton of people. What about Yellowstone? That thing's overdue as well. If the Yellowstone supervolcano blows, that's a lot of death. Now, it's probably not an extinction level event. It's not that bad. But it's going to kill a ton of people. We saw with this last pandemic what can happen if a plague comes. It can wipe out a lot of people. And we've also seen with this last pandemic that people are not capable of rational thought. They'll just believe whatever they're told. The TV told me this, so it has to be true. So then they do dumb stuff that is not helpful at all. We could have killed that like that. I hope everybody realizes that at this point. That most of those people that died didn't have to die. It could have been over very quickly. We had the drug that would kill it. But instead, for political reasons, they lied to everybody and said it was a horse dewormer. And that it was toxic if you ate it, even though it's a Nobel Prize winning drug that has been safe to use for over 60 years. People have been on it for that long. Nobody's dying. And it would have ended it. Most of those people would have survived. But we can't work together. We can't pull our heads out of our asses long enough to say, hey, this is an emergency situation. Let's put politics aside. Let's put all the bullshit aside and let's be honest here. What can we do to fix this? Okay, that drug works. Cool. Give it to everybody. We can't even do that. And the one we just went through was nothing. That was a pathetic little thing, man. It wasn't even that dangerous. What happens when something with a 60 or 70 or 80% fatality rate hits? They're working on stuff like that. That's the scary thing about it, is this doesn't come out of nowhere. Mankind is creating these things. We're in there playing around with these viruses, and we're making them worse. It's only a matter of time before something way worse escapes. So, not only do you have asteroids and comets to worry about, not only do you have solar flares and solar storms and stuff like that to worry about, but you also have to worry about dumbass people messing around with viruses and creating superbugs that could wipe out all of humanity. Not to mention the fact that there's enough nuclear weapons on this planet to kill everybody. And we're constantly squabbling and fighting with each other. More and more people are figuring out how to make them. I bet you it won't be very long after Iran or one of those Middle Eastern type countries get it, that it ain't used, because those people are crazy. Those people do not value life whatsoever. all they want to do is kill everybody. So you got that to worry about as well. So there are so many different ways that all of this could end. That it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. It's inevitable. There's no way we're going to keep getting lucky. We will have another extinction level event. Just like the 16 that came before. And hopefully, God willing, when it comes, some of us will survive. And it'll be hard for a long time. And you'll be like those people that we thought that all ancient people were. The hunter-gatherers, small little groups that would wander around and just desperately try to find food. Using stone tools and stuff like that, because they can't rebuild all the technology that they lost. Can you? If that was to happen today and you were one of the people that survived, could you recreate anything that you have in your house? Could you rebuild cell phones? Could you make them? Could you get the power going again in your town? If there was even a town left, there probably won't be. Can you reset up power? Can you build cars? Can you build airplanes? Can you build any of the stuff we have? Probably not. The overwhelming majority of us can't. You have some people that know how to do some things. You just got to hope those people survive. So most likely what's going to happen is what has happened every other time. And that civilization builds up. We get technologically advanced. Life is really good. The majority of people are dumb. They don't know anything. They rely on a small amount of smart people that know how to build everything and fix everything and create things. And they're the ones that make society great. And everybody else are just kind of hanging out and eating and making kids and going to their jobs and living life. But they have absolutely no idea how to make society work. So then this thing happens, boom, everything goes to crap, everybody's dead. There's a handful of people left. What are the odds that one of those people are going to know how to rebuild anything? How long do you think it'll take before you're walking around with a sharp stick trying to stab something so you can eat some dinner? I'd say not long. Not long at all. So that's what's happened over and over and over again throughout our history. And it can happen again. And it will happen again. The only question is, now that we have the ability, are we going to do everything we can to, one, prevent it, and two, to make sure as many people as possible survive here on Earth? Because both of those things are doable if we have the will to do it. Are we going to try to reach out and spread humanity? First in space stations, then on the moon, then to Mars, and then probably to one of Jupiter's moons. Because there's a couple contenders there that could be a possibility. And just keep on spreading out. The more the better. The more planets, moons, that kind of thing we can get on, the better chance we have to survive as a species. The more shelters we build, the more food we stockpile, the more prepared we get here on Earth, the more of us will survive what's coming. Because make no mistake, it's coming. Guaranteed it's coming. It may not come in your life, if you're lucky. Much better chance it's going to come in your kid's life or your grandkid's life. So that's basically what I have to say about the show tonight, about what I wanted to talk about. And I hope that it's a wake-up call to a lot of people. I hope that people realize we don't even think about this stuff. But it happens all the time, and we don't see most of them. Most of the asteroids that pop up, do you understand that We've had asteroids that have almost hit us in recent time that we didn't even know existed until they got here. All of a sudden, we're like, oh shit, what was that? Damn, that thing almost hit us. And we had no idea it was even coming. There's whole sections of space you can't even see. If one's coming in our blind spot, we're toast. We won't have no idea it's going to hit us until it's here. We got to get prepared. So with that, I'm going to throw it over to Old Boy and see what he has to say about all this, and then we'll take it from there. Old Boy, go ahead, brother.
Thank you, and that was the show for the rest of the night. I'm just playing. I agree with him. We need to start doing something because we're playing with the devil's fire, pretty much. What he's saying is, at any time, this is what I'm going to show people, and we've done this before, is we're a little pebble in a giant ocean. And I'm talking about the Earth as a giant, a little pebble. And then you have big rocks and bigger rocks and stuff like that, and you have the ocean. So think about it. At any time, one of these bigger rocks can come and hit us, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. Yeah, they could try to do some stuff. It matters the size. I'm not going to say any, but there is stuff they can do. But it could happen at any time. Most of the time, we'll know, but there's something that could bump one of the asteroids and just run right into us. And they don't even have to be that. It could be like a size of a football field, and it still could end the world or kill half of people here. So he's pretty much right. We need to find something that I know Eli has talked about. The ocean is one of the places we should be living also. It would take, and we could do that. They could build buildings in the walls of the ocean because they already have. So we could go that route, or we could go underground, but still ain't going to solve the fact that if we get hit by something, the world blows up and there's nothing left. It goes like like a planet blowing up. It's inevitable. We're going to get, like he said, 16, 17, whatever it is, times we've ended. It will just happen again. It always happens when civilization gets to its highest mark, something happens. It's meant to happen. Maybe we're not supposed to get to a certain level. Maybe this is just a game that somebody's playing, and we just keep, every time it gets to a certain level, goes right back to normal, back to the beginning. And then it gets fucked up again and does it all over again. Maybe this is what it's going to continuously be for the rest of our existence, till something destroys us. Either that, or he was talking pandemics and stuff that could kill not 1% of the population, like he said, 50 to 40% there is. And that could happen. And it kills half of the population. We have to be ready. We have to get off the Earth. We need to get lunar stations and civilizations off the planet, especially a Mars civilization. We need to be there, and I really do believe we're seeding there anyway. I believe that's when we send the shuttles and all that. They're already seeding, and I guarantee air will be on Mars soon. Not like it is on Earth, but they are built. I know they're dropping seeds, and once you start growing plants and trees, air becomes on the atmosphere. And it changes. That's what they need to do. I think they've been doing it. We just don't say nothing about it. James ain't allowed to say anything anyway. But I think that's something that we've been doing for a long time. I think that we need to be on another planet just in case something happens to this one. I believe that we have maybe a couple hundred years. I think that's pushing it the way things are going. We're going to either blow each other off the Earth. Something's going to hit us. Pandemic, maybe a giant volcano. But even then, even a giant volcano wouldn't end the world. It would kill most people, but some people would survive, especially things in the ground. And the military would survive somehow. I'm talking about something like a comet or something hitting us, or asteroid. Comet wouldn't do nothing, but an asteroid hitting us. And blowing up the whole world or half of it, yeah, that would be a whole different story. Earthquakes, tidal waves, the earth just cracks right in half. You never know. The chances is almost impossible. But if that happened, we're all screwed. Anything could happen. Just like what else could happen? Ice age. We can have another damn ice age and freaking almost die again. Technology is getting to its peak, I think, right now with our species, and it's going to be, like James said, soon it's coming. Unless we get off the earth, and I think we will. I think people are starting to realize, and I think they're starting to admit what's really been going on. Maybe that this is right. Maybe we are the aliens, and we just been flying these things around to see if we can get off the earth. And I think we are, and it's going to be soon. Maybe next 10 years. I think they're going to really get into the space stuff like it was in the 50s and 60s again. And I think that especially the way the new president thinks, at least for the next 4 years, we're going to be really working with NASA and stuff like that. So we're going to get ahead again. And that's great on that part of it, because we need to get caught back up. In 4 years, it will get us back where maybe not where we were a long time ago, but back up to people getting interested again, and NASA getting a lot of more and more money and funding to do other stuff. So that's something that's going to happen. Like I said, James did a whole 42-minute show. So that's why I was like, when he gets into the science stuff, it doesn't stop. If it's something he really knows, like if I wouldn't have turned on my camera, he would have went another 20 minutes. And he did that one day. We were doing a show, I think it was a couple weeks ago, and shit, he's all, it's an hour and 2 minutes in. I did my part. I did like 10 minutes. So he gets into this stuff where he really likes it and enjoys it. He can go an hour, 2 hours. And I'm pretty much left with like a couple things I can say, but he's pretty much covered it. But this is something I could talk about a little more. Floods, like he said, the glaciers are going to eventually melt unless we do something about it. We need to find how to keep the temperature cool over there. Once we did that, we wouldn't really have to worry about it that as bad. We can at least stop the melting to a minimum. But if we don't do something and then it's just going to rise the ocean, and it could cause a tidal wave that we've never seen before, and that's the end of the world, pretty much. Again, I still think people would get off here and they have something else that they're not telling us. I think people would be gone if they knew the world was the certain people that have money. They will find a way, and they would probably be gone. So I don't think the world would ever just end altogether. Maybe, well, the earth might, but I don't think our population is going in. It may be very thousands, but they will survive. I have a feeling they already have been doing that for a while. That's just my opinion. And I think that we'll have about 1% of the population we have now. So if we don't change, if we're lucky, anything can happen. Aliens can, there's another thing, and I know how crazy this sounds, but aliens can come and take over the world again, like they've done before. I believe that also. And just get tired of what we're doing. We're destroying everything. So that's it. You guys lose your license. You're say this is like BF 75,567.12 atmosphere 7. I'm just, you get James to smile on that one because it sounds like the movies they talk, but and it could be like that, and they could take our license away and they take over our whole world because we can't stop their technology. Nothing close. That could be another possibility. I was thinking about that while we were talking. There's something else I can throw in here to, the whole paranormal and sci-fi stuff. Now we're talking about aliens, but that could be another possibility. They could say, you know what, we're fucking done, and you guys are done for a while. We're going to be rerunning things like we did thousands of years ago. Maybe that's what happens. Maybe they come back before anything gets out of hand and take over everything and redo everything, because that's pretty much what it looked like you were talking about. And especially in Egyptian times when they were moving those stones, they were doing it some way, and we still don't know how they were doing it. So that's the truth. There's people who've cut stone now that said it's the stuff that they were doing was like top of line. Would be, you would have to have millions and millions of dollars in technology like that, and he can't even really do it like that good. So they were using stuff that we don't even know, and if we do know, it isn't us, it's certain people, and they don't want to say nothing because it's coming. I believe that, you know, they already brought out the laser cannons and weapons and a lot of sonic stuff they're using now on military. They're real state of the art now, like especially with the whole. A lot of people don't realize when Halo came out, they did a contract with the military, and just like Ghost Recon. And if you see the weapons count the bullets now, they really do that. Like they have a gun that really does that now. It counts the shots like Halo, and that's where they got that, and they got some of the armor and stuff like that from that game. So you never know, that could happen. Biblical, if you believe in beliefs, biblical stuff could happen. If you're a Christian, Catholic, even Jewish, they believe something might happen. The Muslims do too. So I mean, a lot of religions have the end of times thing, so that could happen. You know, then you won't have to worry about nothing hitting us, because that will be a whole different story on a different level. But I'm saying it, or it could be anybody's religion. What's going to happen? I'm not saying that, but there's a lot of people who believe that too. The most one I see happening is getting hit by an asteroid, a giant super volcano blowing up all of a sudden. I forgot. Yeah, that too. That can happen. That will, and it's not just what you people think. Oh, if it's split, it doesn't. That's not what happens. It's the ash. It shoots up in the air. It will turn everything dark, and we'll have dark. What do they call them? Cryptoactive. Post. I don't know how to say the word, but everything it'll be dark, and you couldn't even breathe. The ashes will kill you, and then you'll have to wear a mask, and whoever survives, you'll still die over time because all the toxic chemicals that's in the air. It'd take hundreds of years for it to clean out of the earth. So that could also happen, and a lot of people don't realize that. Tidal wave, giant tidal wave, or tsunami, and just a big old thing as big as one of the skyscrapers comes, drowns pretty much most of the world, and that could happen. Godzilla could have come out of the ocean, and the Cthulhu. Some people believe that. Call the Cthulhu, whatever the fuck that thing is from Lovecraft, and that thing's supposed to be as big as like 300 meters or something, like, or 3,000 meters or ton. I don't know. It's huge. And they said the reason why they believe it exists because there's a sonar that one side of the earth to the other in like 2 seconds. So they think whatever this was, they don't know what it was, but if it is, it's that big, and that thing is that big. So that but that also makes sense because in the Bible it talks about the Leviathan being so massive there's nothing that can kill it. So that sounds like it. If you think about it, that kind of sounds like it though. And and maybe it's kind of the same thing. It's a giant dragon looking thing. It's like once it stands up, you can't even see its face. It's that high. That's scary. That means nothing can kill it. So even if we shot stuff at it, just bounce off of it like it was nothing. It isn't like Godzilla's 300 or 400 feet. You're talking about thousands of feet tall. This thing's huge. Like this is like, like what is it? 5 miles long or something like that? That's ridiculous, bro. That's insane. That means his head would be in the sky. But that could happen. I'm not saying it. I'm just saying that, throwing out that's more like the Kraken and stuff like that. I'm being funny on that part. You never know. We could get the bird flu, where some kind of flu, it just kills everybody. We could get the 28 days later virus that turns people in rabid monsters, and the whole world goes. And like 28 days later, they beat each other to death. And remember, the zombie fungus can, if it flips over to humans, if you've seen The Last of Us, that's what that is. It's like a fungus, and there's nothing you can do. You're fucked. Because the fungus is a whole different story. Unless that one, but the one girl was born with that has the immunity to it. She got over it. It didn't kill her. So there's some people who are born with it. That could happen. That's the whole zombie apocalypse thing, and that's something me and James have been waiting for a long time. Kick some ass. If you turn into a zombie, I haven't told my wife. Start turning, shoot me. What'd she say? I'll shoot you in your head. What I taught my daughter. If we have a zombie and I turn it into a zombie apocalypse, I turn into a zombie. What are you gonna do? Shoot you? Good. That's what you got to do. You can't think I'm another person, the person I am now. If I'm coming at you to eat you, I'm no longer James, an old boy. I am now a mindless zombie that wants to eat you. Shoot me, please, James. I don't even have to tell you. I already know what you're gonna do. I know you love me, but if I'm a monster, you're going to take care of me. And that's the way I want to go anyway. That would be cool. I wouldn't have no problem with that. And I would expect you to do it. I'd do the same for you. If you were turning into a zombie, you told me to deal with it, I'd deal with it because I had to. But that's what I would want somebody to do. I don't want, no, I can't do it. No. Shoot them too. No, don't. I don't want to say that, but I'm just joking. That was just for jokes. I don't want somebody to take it serious. But I mean, if that's how I believe. If you're a zombie, bye. You're not the same person anymore. It's probably not going to happen, but I'm just showing the theory on it. But that would be kind of cool, like running around. That would suck for people. I wouldn't want people turning into zombies, but it would be kind of cool. I would wonder how long I'd be able to survive. It matters how many people you have with you and how many people do dumb shit, because people don't think, they use emotions, and that's what the problem is on a lot of things that happen in this world. People don't think about the consequences. They think about it now and then they regret it later. And that's what happens. You think about, man, it wasn't worth it. But that's what I was saying. You're going to either do it now and regret it later, but it is what it is. That being said, I agree with a lot of what James is saying. I think that if we don't do something soon, we're going to be in trouble, and we won't live here too much longer. And you people, he's not doing it to, just do a show. He's doing it because he actually is telling the truth. We're going to be in trouble soon. I feel in the next 100 years, we got to do something. Within the next 100 years, 50 years, maybe, not even less than that, maybe 50, 60 years, we've got to get off this planet. But that being said, there you go, brother. That's all I got to say.
See, if you think about it, in geological time, it just happened. I mean, 11,600 years ago is not that long ago, geologically speaking. A lot of the earthquakes and the eruptions and all that kind of stuff that we're dealing with right now is kind of after effects and aftershocks of that event, still happening today. The earth is still responding to that trauma today. So it just happened. But the weird thing is, it's cyclical. It keeps coming over and over and over again. And we're kind of at the point where we're overdue. And another thing not many people know is we are in an ice age right now. Everybody always talks about global warming and climate change, and we got to make sure that the glaciers don't melt. There isn't much glacier compared to during the big ice age, the one that I'm talking about. At that point, most of Europe was covered. The glaciers came all the way down to the United States. I mean, it was a lot of ice. Way, way more than now. Now you just got a little bit. So now if it melts, it's not going to be such a horrible catastrophe that's going to destroy the planet. Yes, you'll have a rise in sea level of a couple inches, which means you might have to move the coastline back a little bit. It's not going to be hell on earth. If anything, it's going to be better. I don't mind global warming because, like I said, we are in an ice age. You can look that up. Go to Google or whatever search you use and just ask that question. Hey, we in an ice age? It's going to say, yeah, dummy, we in an ice age. So what happens when you're not in an ice age? Well, when you're not in an ice age, the temperatures are higher, which means more of the planet is able to grow food, which means you have more food to eat, which also means you have more animals because there's more food to eat, which means you have more animals to eat. So it's all a good time. Yes, in the very beginning you're going to lose some coastland, but so what? Who cares? It's not the end of the world. I look forward to global warming. I say warm it up. Let's get things going again to where we can grow more food here. We can do more here. It's going to be a win-win situation. It's going to be good. That's my view on it. Life is better when it's warmer. And that's just objectively true. You can grow more things. There's more animals, more plants. People are healthier. It's much better when it's warmer. It's been a lot colder than this in the past. And it's been a lot warmer than this in the past. And it's during the warm times that mankind thrives. I mean, we're kind of thriving now, not because the warmer temperatures, because we're actually in an ice age, but we're thriving now because of our technology. We have the ability to overcome the cold because we can be inside of homes with heat. So we don't have to be out in it. Like right now as I speak, it's in the 20s here where I'm at. But I'm not out in the elements. I'm not sitting outside where it's 24 degrees shivering and trying to keep warm so I don't die. I'm in a house. I've got heat so I can survive easily here. So we have this false sense of, hey, this is the good time right here. This is wonderful. This is the climate we want to keep. Not really. I mean, we're in an ice age. We don't want to keep that. We want it to warm up. If it gets warmer, there won't be as many people starving because we'll be able to grow way more food. And if you look at the law of supply and demand, the more you have of something, the cheaper it is. So the more food we produce, the cheaper the food will cost, and the more people will be able to afford it. It'll be great all around, So I'm not afraid of global warming. But that's a whole nother show. We'll do a show on global warming at some point in the future. But I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope you learned something. I hope that you understand that this is important. Okay, I didn't do this show today to scare you. Well, I did kind of. Honestly, I did. A little bit. But not in a mean way. Like, I didn't want to scare you just to scare you because I'm a dick. I wanted to scare you a little bit so you'd say, wait a minute, that shit's real. That could happen. And anything I said tonight, go look up yourself. You can fact check the hell out of me if you want to. You can find all the information. It's not a secret. I'm not breaking new ground here. This is all stuff that's known. It's just most people don't know it because most people don't know a whole lot of much of anything. I'm a different kind of person. I'm a very, very smart guy. I'm a nerd. I study this stuff. Like, this is exciting to me. Like, my idea of a good time is sitting for hours and studying geology and studying the ice age and stuff like that and learning as much as I can about that subject. I enjoy that. I'm having fun doing that. Most people don't do that. Most people want to go hang out with their friends, watch a football game, go have some drinks, whatever. I don't do any of that stuff. This is what I do. I study. And so I had a good time. I hope you had a good time. But with that being said, love you guys, appreciate you guys, and we'll catch you on the next one. Till we speak to you again. Love many, trust few, and do harm to none. God loves you, and so do we. Bye-bye.
In order for the light to shine so brightly, the darkness must be present. Tune in every Monday at 10 o'clock for Dark Sun Rising on the ParaX Radio Network.
Throughout time, events have occurred that have shaped human history. Spirit voices from the past have many stories to tell, and for the past several years, channelers Barry and Connie Strom have been conducting live channeling sessions and relaying those stories and messages from those on the other side. we invite you to tune in to Barry and Connie's show, Channeling History, on the Para X Radio Network, every Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, as they relay the messages of those voices from the past, the ones who have witnessed history firsthand, and those who have made history themselves.